Hi everyone, how are you all doing? I hope you're great. Today we'll have commas. First, you have to log in using the aplusstudent.com. Click on your name, move on to language at the grade 6. Chapters commas, lesson will be commas with series, dates, and places, commas with compound and complex sentences. Okay, so you have to use commas to separate three or more items in a series. If you have a series, you have to put commas to separate each of the items in the series. You have to put a comma after each item in the list, except for the last one. The last comma in the list, right before the coordinating conjunction, is called an Oxford comma or serial comma. So the serial comma is sometimes considered optional, but most style guide demand it. Okay, so, for example, we have a series here. We have red, white, and blue are the colors of the American flag. You can see that this are series of colors, right? So we have commas for the first two series except the last one, which is blue. So the last comma should be before the coordinating conjunction. So look at the last comma over here. Expressions that consist of pairs of words such as thunder and lightning and bread and butter are generally treated as single items. So college course typically includes tuition, room and board, and textbook. So when you have pair of words like thunder and lightning, bread and butter, you know you do not separate them. You just treat them as one. Okay. Then we also have in dates with a day and a year, use a comma after the day. Also use a comma after the year unless the date ends the sentence. So if you have a day and a year, you have to put a comma after the day. So we have January, then we have 1, and we have a comma 2001. So we put a comma after the year because we have more sentence. Okay, so it was the first day of the century. Then Mahatma Gandhi was born on October 2, 1869. Okay, so you can see that we put a comma just after the day. You don't have to put a comma after the year unless it is a continuation of a sentence. Okay, so when a name of a city is used with the name of its state or country, use a comma after the city. Also use a comma after the state or country unless it ends the sentence. So we have Chicago, Illinois. We have to put a comma in between them. Okay, so we have a comma after Illinois because it doesn't end the sentence. It's known as the Windy City. Then we have just booked our flight to Athens, Greece. So you can see that Greece is ending the sentence, so you do not need to add a comma after Greece. Okay, so I hope you take note of the rules for the commas. Okay, so yeah, complete the text by inserting two commas. Notes in the skill serial commas are not optional. So on May 4, 1965, Willie Mays, an African American baseball player, broke the National League re- record for home runs. So we have to see that we have a comma after the day and also the year because the year doesn't end the sentence. Okay, and then African America shouldn't be separated; it's together. Okay. Then we have insert three commas here. Cranberries are used in jellies, juices, baked goods, and sauces, all which are often served on Thanksgiving. So we have a comma what after the series except for the last one. Okay. So you have a comma after sauces because it's a continuation of like more sentences. Alright, so let's look at the test. You can share your answers with me. Alright, so correct the text by inserting two commas. So will it be the first or the second? So we have Elvis Presley, who was born in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1935, and it's still possible to take a tour of his birthplace. So is it first for Elvis Presley? Which of them? Okay, so we have the first one. So we have the second. You have to insert one comma. We have in 2013 Nelson Mandela, freedom fighter and former South African president, died at the age of 95 at his home in Johannesburg, South Africa. First, the second. Okay, so we have first one because you have to make sure you put a comma in between the city and the country. So, two commas here. The United States is not the only country with a red, white, and blue flag. The flags of over 30 other nations use the same colors. Is it the first or the second? Okay, so what do we have? Is it the first or the second? Okay, so we have the first because the last comma should be before the coordinating conjunction. Okay, so in one of hockey's most exciting overtime games, so you have to insert one comma here. Bobby Orr scored the winning goal to lead the Boston Bruins to a Stanley Cup title on May 10, 1970. Is it first or second? Okay, so we have the second. You have to make sure you insert the comma after the day. So one comma here. Rhode Island was the last state to ratify the Constitution. It didn't do so until May 29, 1790. First or second? Okay, so we have the first one. So, while lost at sea, the fisherman survived on turtles, fish, and birds that he caught by hand. First 2 seconds. Okay, so what do we have here? First or second? Okay, so we have the second. So, first or second over here. The Georgia, we have to insert to comma. The Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta, Georgia requires more than 8 million gallons of water for its animals' habitat. First or second? Okay, we have the second. Alright, that's it for this lesson. Move on to the next. So make sure you try to complete this one if you haven't done it yet, okay? Alright, so in a compound sentence, you have to use a comma. before the coordinating conjunction that joins the two independent clauses. Okay, for example, we have the coordinating conjunctions are and, or, but. So all these are coordinating conjunction. So you have to use a comma before the coordinating conjunction. We saw a flash of lightning, comma, and seconds later we heard the rumble of thunder. In a compound sentence, if a dependent clause comes before an independent clause, you have to use a comma after the dependent clause. So an independent clause is the one that starts with a subordinating conjunction, such as after, although, as, because, before, if, since, unless, until, when, or while. So all these are subordinating conjunctions. So you have to put the comma if the dependent clause comes first, and they usually start with the subordinating conjunction. So if she ever gets the chance, Terry would love to visit the Egyptian pyramids. So you can see that if here is a subordinating conjunction. So let's see the um, examples. Okay. Most of the executives are going to be late, so let's reschedule the meeting for tomorrow. So you can see that so is a subordinating conjunction. So we need to put the comma before so. It is incorrect if you put the comma after the coordinating conjunction. Okay, let's go to the test. So we have to insert one comma. Is it the first or the second? So it starts with because. So because is what? The subordinating conjunction. So we have the first one. All right. So is it the first or the second? Unless we play miniature golf, I'll probably stay home to catch up on miscellaneous chores. First or second? Okay, so we have what the first one. It's also subordinating conjunction. So we have to put a comma after the dependent clause. So we can meet at the entrance to the stadium, or we can just look for each other in the bleachers. So is it the first or the second? So this is for the coordinating conjunction. The comma should come before, not after the coordinating conjunction. So is it the first or second? Insert one comma here. We have Americans toss out 2.5 million plastic bottles every hour, and approximately 1,500 bottles wind up in landfills and the ocean every second. First, the second. So this one also has the coordinating conjunction, so it should be before. So since Liverpool, England is the birthplace of the Beatles, the city offers a tour that includes a visit to the childhood home of Paul McCartney. First or second? Okay, so this is what dependent clause. So we have the second. So the restaurant received a huge shipment of seafood. So the chef was inspired to create an interior of pecan encrusted sea bass. So is it first or second? So we have the second one is coordinating conjunction. So is it the first or the second? So what do we have here? So this is also the coordinating conjunction. So we have to put the comma before and. Although the amount of garbage that goes into the landfills has dropped since 1990, the average American today still generates more than 4 pounds of garbage every day. First or second? Okay, so we have the first one. All right, that's it for our lesson today on the commas. Can you tell me if you have any questions? All right, since we have no questions, we'll end here. Complete this lesson if you haven't. See you all next time. Bye.